All right, I'm going to try to do this better the second time through. So I'm doing a little exam review. This is very similar to the one you got in class, except instead of 3, 4, and 6, -2, I'm using -2, comma 7 as my other point. So I'm going to make my 0, 0, let's see, going -2, 7. Yeah, I'm going to make my 0 right here. That's my 0, 0. So -2 here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 is up here, and then 3, 4 is over 3, and up 4 is right there. Once again, if that's 0, 0. So those are my 2 points: -2, 7, and 3, 4. All right. So I'm trying to figure out the distance, slope, and midpoint of this line. So if I draw that in there, first of all, midpoint, I can kind of tell the midpoint is roughly right there. But if I want to actually use the midpoint formula, it is, I add my x's together. So the -2 plus 3 over 2. And I add my y's together, the 7 and the 4 over 2, because we're averaging those two. And so that's going to be 1/2 and 11/2, or basically 1/2 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5, which I can tell basically from the graph. So that's 1/2 and 5.5. Okay. The length, I can use the distance formula, or I can just turn this into a right triangle and see that it's 3 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's 3 squared plus 5 squared and the square root of that whole thing. So 3 squared plus 5 squared, and I'm getting off the chart here, and it's the square root of the whole thing. That's basically the distance formula, but instead of doing the x, like this would be the x minus, if I subtract my x's, my 3 and my -2, that's what gives me the 5 there. But I've already got counted, so I don't have to do that. Okay, so this is basically the square root of 9 plus 25 is going to be 9 plus 25 is 34. So it's a square root of 34, or that's going to be approximately like 5.8. So I could put either in there. And then finally the slope, it's 3 and 5, but notice it is going down 3 and over 5. We always start on the left side, but either go up or down. Up's a positive slope, down's a negative slope. So that's -3/5. Okay, I did that much better than last time. For the problems like this, it's always going to be, do your triangles look like this, one inside the other, like kite problem was like that? Are they facing each other, which is what this one's like, or are they, you might just have 2 triangles somewhere, like a shadow problem. The one we kind of haven't seen is if you've got a lake here and you're trying to figure out how big it is, you can actually create one that looks like this. And if you figure out this one over here, you can actually figure out the distance across the lake. But this is a mirror problem, so there's a mirror in the middle. And so we have kind of probably a larger thing out here and a smaller one out here. And this angle of reflection is the same, and both these things are at right angles. So by AA, they have to be congruent. You are standing over here, and your eyes are 1.8 over the ground. The mirror is, I changed that number to 7. It was a 1.8. It was 1.7 in the thing I think I gave you in class today. And then I changed that 33 to an 84. So, and then I'm looking for X. So I can do this a couple of ways. The 1.8 and the X can go together. The 1.8 and the 7 can go together. But once I pick that, that's going to determine the other thing. So I'm going to do 1.8 over X equals 7 over 84. I'm going to cross multiply the 1.8 times the 84 equals 7x. And I'm running out of room, so I'm going to multiply the 1.8 times the 84. I can make my calculator work. That's going to be a problem. 1.8, there we go, times 84. That equals 151.2, and I divide by 7, and I get 21.6, which is kind of what I was expecting. I was expecting a number bigger than 1.8, but smaller than the 84, since the 7 is the small side of that triangle. I got a slope of 2/3. So I'm going to go pick a thing. I'm going to go up 2 and over 3. So that's my line AB of 2/3. I'm supposed to do another line CD. It's parallel. Well, if it's parallel, it's got the same slope. So pick a point, go up 2 over 3. There's my other one that's parallel. So that slope is 2/3. And then our trick for a perpendicular slope to AB is the perpendicular slope is always the opposite reciprocal. So that's positive. I'm going to make it the opposite, and it's the reciprocal, so 3/2. So something that is perpendicular to this would be I'm going to pick a point. I'm going to pick a point here, and I'm going to go down 3 and over 2, and so that line right there is EF, and it's like that, and it's actually perpendicular to this other one as well. All right. On the other side, okay, this is where I really had the problem last time. I was all over the place as far as drawing things, and I've made a mess out of my work here. Up here, when we are doing these things, we're looking for either everything has changed by something, by like I've added 2 or -3 from each column, or the X and Y's have like flip-flopped, or maybe they've all become negative. If I'm adding or subtracting something to everything, it's a translation. If something has flip-flopped or one's become negative or something like that, it's either a rotation or reflection, and then typically we graph it and figure out which it is, because I don't like people memorizing the formula. In this particular case, I can see, I'm not even going to graph this one, I can see that I've added 1 onto everything here, and I have subtracted 3 onto everything there. So, and I'm assuming you can see this relatively, -1, -1, -6, 2, 5, 5, and then here's 0, 0, -5, -1, 2, 2. These are not the same numbers that we had in class. So my rule here, I'm going to make it a little bigger over here. My rule is X plus 1 and Y minus 3. And so that is a translation. And if I was to graph that, I'd see triangle and then the exact same triangle over to the right one and up 3. Okay, down here where I've made a mess, I've got a rectangle that has a length of 18 and a width of 30. I have a similar rectangle that has a length of I don't know and a height of 16. And so when I set that up, I'm going to do length over width, which is, let's see, 18 over 30. And the other one's going to be, so my length is on top. I don't know that. That's an X. And on the bottom is 16. I'm going to cross multiply, which means I'm going to multiply those two. The 18 times the 16. And those two. And 30 and X. And then I'm going to multiply my 18 times 16 off screen. And ultimately, I'll end up dividing by the 30. And I'll get 9.6. Let's see if that makes sense. My 30 went down to 16, so that's about half. So this should go down to about half, which 9.6 seems to make sense as a number. Crazy market. I can get 18 secretive bison for 30 insatiable dogs, and I've got 4 insatiable dogs that I'm trying to trade in. How many secretive bisons could you trade for? So I'm going to do 18 over 30. I'm doing bison to dogs, and I'm doing on the other side, I've got dogs in the bottom, which is going to be 4. And I'm looking for bison on the top, that's X. So when I cross multiply, I get the 18 times 4 and 30X. And so I'm going to do that off screen. Clear. 18 times 4 divided by 30. And I get 2.4. So once again, let's see if that kind of makes sense. I had 18 bison and for 30 dogs, so 4 dogs, it's a really small fraction of that. So I'm expecting a really small fraction of that, 2.4. I guess that seems about right. A little hard for me to tell. Finally, this is kind of a mess over here. But the way I changed it is I'm gonna sketch it out on, or I'm gonna stop. I think I'm just gonna stop. That's enough.